James Potter, Remus Lupin, Sirius Black, Peter Pettigrew, Pause of Breath, and the Prisoner of Azkaban by gonzoclock. Chapter 11. Fred is pacing in front of one of the prefect's bathrooms, idly tossing the philosopher's stone from one hand to the other. It's still glowing, despite everything. Fred would kill to figure out what Flimmer did to make it. It couldn't have been legal. Actually, scratch that. Maybe Fred would rather not know. A voice breaks him out of his reverie. Fred, Hermione says, walking up to him. She's unabashedly staring at the stone, expression hungry. How can I help you? Fred asks, pocketing the stone. George and him had tried to give it back to Harry, but he wouldn't hear anything about it, so they decided to keep it safe for him till he inevitably changed his mind. I was wondering if I could borrow the stone. Say what you will about Hermione, she doesn't beat around the bush. Why? Fred asks, feeling abruptly on edge. Hermione hums, cocking her head. She seems to be debating something with herself. Then she shrugs. It'd be easier to show you. Come with me. Fred pauses, then goes to follow the girl. It's not like he'd been doing anything important, just keeping watch for James and Pete. They'd needed someone to tell them if anyone came by wanting to use the prefect's bathroom. They're washing a dog, for some reason, but Fred's sure that they wouldn't mind if he pops off for a minute. Worst case scenario, they get caught sneaking a dog into the castle. Fred and George have done worse and gotten less points taken off. I've been researching blood magic, Hermione says as they walk. I wanted to see if I could figure out exactly what had happened between the map and the stone. And you need to borrow the stone for observation? Of a sort, Hermione says, holding the door to the library open. She jerks her head for Fred to follow her deeper into the maze of shelves. Like I said, I've been looking into blood magic. Not too surprisingly, it's really very difficult to find anything in the school library. It's a wonder the library has any books left at all. What with all the censoring Dumbledore's done, Hermione continues, bitterness bleeding into her voice. Tell me about it, Fred agrees glumly. He and George are very familiar with the limitations of the Hogwarts library. Did you find anything at all? Hermione stops in front of a shelf that seems to be full of Muggle fiction books. One. I found one book. Right here, actually. She runs a finger over the spines of the books, then hooks a finger on one inconspicuously unlabeled book and pulls it off the shelf. Fred looks at Hermione, raising an eyebrow. What is it? Hermione flips the book open and shows Fred the title. A Basic Introduction to Blood Magic and Its Uses, Fred reads. Yeah, promising, but you still haven't told me what you're doing. Hermione flips the pages until she reaches the very end of the book. She holds out her other hand, the one not holding the book. Stone? Fred looks at her, feeling apprehensive. However, he pulls the stone out of his pocket and hands it over to her. Hermione takes the book in one hand and the stone in the other. She grins. Fred said, what are you doing? I'm trying to figure out what happened with the stone in the map, Hermione says, and every good scientist knows to start by trying to replicate the phenomenon. Too late. He sees the reddish-brown words that are inked into the margins of the books. They're smudged, so he can't quite make it out, but if he had to guess, it looks like a basic protection rune and some names. Hermione? Hermione slams the stone down on the smudges, and Fred squints his eyes at the book as the book starts to glow a blinding red. Hermione drops the book and pushes Fred back. I just realized why you're a Gryffindor and not a Ravenclaw, Fred says, shielding his eyes. So, give me the stone. I've decided you're not allowed to play with it anymore. Hermione hands it to him without protest, but she's not looking at him. Instead, she's staring at the book on the ground. It's almost to the point where Fred can't look at it without hurting his eyes. He's not sure how Hermione does it. As the map had done before, the book disappears in a flash, leaving behind two prone forms crumpled on the floor. They look to be around Fred's age, a boy and a girl. Was that supposed to happen? Asks the boy, voice cold. Says the girl, I don't think so. The girl stands up, long red hair falling in a curtain around her pale, freckled face. She hurries over to the boy and grabs his arm, helping him up. He's tall, has long black hair, and has sharp dark eyes. Hermione lets out a little gasp, and Fred feels abruptly lightheaded as he recognizes the boy. "We're dead," Fred says as he stares at the unmistakable face of a 15-year-old Severus Snape. "Oh, we are so dead." "I'd hide that stone if I were you," Hermione says, eyes wide as she stares at the two. "Otherwise Dumbledore's absolutely going to be taking it from you." "This is 100% your fault," Fred says, trying not to lose his temper, as the reality of the situation is sinking in. This was a colossally stupid thing to do. Hermione looks chagrined, which Fred takes as a win. Unfortunately, that does nothing to change a thing about the situation Hermione has now gotten them into. Fred's balls. Fred hates when he has to be the responsible one. "Excuse me," says the girl. She tucks a strand of loose red hair behind her ear. "Who are you?" Hermione says slowly. "Granger." "Fred Weasley," Fred says, trying to keep his breathing level. The girl furrows her brow. "Huh. I've never heard of you." "And you are?" Hermione cuts in. Fred shoots her a glance, and she shrugs. "Lily, what's going on?" asks young Snape, eyes narrowed. Fred feels his heart skip a beat. No, surely not. "Lily Potter?" "I don't know," Lily has his back. "Nothing I researched said anything about transportation." "We can explain," Hermione adds hurriedly. "But it's not. Maybe you should sit down." There's no way Fred is drawing this out for any longer than he has to. We have the Philosopher's Stone, which interacted with your blood, which created a complete magical clone of you at the moment you finished the blood spell. It's 1993. I'd apologize, but this is in no way my fault, and I cannot believe you did this. Fred finishes, turning to Hermione. "If that is the Lily I think it is," Hermione hisses, "then I'm not sorry." "I do need to sit down," decides young Snape. He slides back to the floor. Lily is clutching her stomach, freckles standing out on her pale face. She looks up at Hermione. "You did this?" Hermione sets her jaw and nods. Lily lets out a shaky breath. "Why?" Lily asks finally. "I know that for you it seems like you were just transported from your time and into ours, but that's not what happened. This version of you, didn't actually exist till now. The original yous went on in their own timeline, living." Hermione's voice catches, and she clears her throat. "Living their lives. So, if you think about it, I really did you a favor." "Why?" Lily cuts in. Hermione falls quiet. "Scientific advancement?" Fred groans into his hands. Lily looks at her for a moment. Hermione shifts uncomfortably under her considering stare. "I'm going to sit you down with a paper on ethics and science and make you read it all the way through," Lily finally decides. "And I'm going to throw up," Snape agrees. Fred blinks. It's weird seeing Snape, even a teenage one, be this emotive. Lily turns to the boy and sinks to the floor beside him. "Hey, no, look, you're okay. We're okay. This will probably be good, even. We'll just go to whoever the headmaster is and explain everything, and you can probably come live with me now. Plus, it's only been 18 years. That's not so bad." "Well, that's convenient," Fred says, thinking about James and the others. Lily and Snape turn to look at him as one. "What do you mean by that?" Snape asks. Fred opens his mouth, then shuts it. "Never mind," he says. "It's nothing. Hey, let's get you guys to Dumbledore, yeah?" Fred feels taken aback as he's suddenly the subject of three furious expressions. "Absolutely not," Snape says. "Is he seriously still the fucking headmaster?" Lily huffs. "What part of High the Philosopher's Stone did you not hear?" Hermione asks, waving her hands around. "Fine, Ronan. What do you propose we do instead?" Fred asks. "What do these people have against the headmaster? He knows Ron's friends aren't the biggest fan of men. Maybe Fred should ask them a little more about that." The other four sit back, thinking. "Let's go back to the tower," Hermione suggests, eyes darting over to Lily. "We can ask your brothers and Harry." Fred narrows his eyes, but can't think of a better alternative. He nods. "Gryffindor? I'd rather we didn't," Snape says as Lily helps him up. "You're not technically a Slytherin yet. The hat hasn't sorted this version of you," Hermione says and winces. Fred sighs. While Lily and Snape are wearing admittedly slightly out of date Hogwarts uniforms, they don't actually have any distinguishing features for each house. How do you know I'm Slytherin? Snape asks suspiciously. You don't even know my name. Well, Hermione says and stops. She shoots a look at Fred, then that he reads as help me out here, but he just shakes his head, completely at a loss. You know me, Snape says. Original me, I mean. It's not a question, but Hermione looks away and nods anyway. How? Snape says, voice cold. You're the head of Slytherin, Hermione says, looking back at the boy. Potions teacher. Snape blinks, then shakes his head and blinks again. Lily actually laughs. There's no way, she says. Sev hates people he'd never teach. You must be mistaken. Sev? Fred repeats dully. Snape glares at him, and he snaps his mouth closed. Even at 15, Snape has his glower down. Trust us, Hermione says, grimacing. We don't think he likes it any more than you would. Why go to the tower at all, then? Lily asks. Let's just go to Professor Sev. Snape looks at Lily like she just suggested he dye his hair bright pink. Or not, Lily says. Jesus. Fred leads the way to the tower, darting ahead and looking around corners to make sure they don't run into anyone. He doesn't want a repeat of what happened with the marauders and McGonagall. He's coming back from doing just that when he hears a door swing open a little ways down the hall and realizes with horror where exactly he'd left the others. So much for not having a repeat. Actually, this might be worse than McGonagall. Fred, you there? We're done with Snuffles. Fred watches, as though it's in slow motion, as James and Peter catch sight of Lily and Snape, who are staring wide-eyed and horrified at the two boys and their considerably cleaner-looking dog. Notes. Hermione. Ethics? Never heard of her. Lily. I get it, I do, but they are 100% a thing for a reason. Hermione. Fake and wrong. Okay, that was fun. That was just a silly chapter. Oh, this is so fun. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. I love this so much. I keep on forgetting of the dark parts. I'm like, no, it's just a silly little one. And then like a really depressing part comes up. I'm like, oh yeah, it's not just silly, is it? Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Bye bye.